Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor. I'm here with you, Alex. We're at
That's
Ranger
right.
Stop and Pop in Atlanta. It's pretty awesome.
So cool.
I am a big fan of the Anime Egotists, I have to say. And I also wanted to say from myself and May, you're watching Anime Egotists. And actually, I'm a better trainer than Brendan. Oh, come on, May. A little humility?
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where you might get a badge from our gym, but I don't think you'd want it.
It doesn't get you anything. We don't even qualify as a Pokemon League gym. We're just a gym.
Exactly. Anyways, my name's Alex, and I'm not getting into a fight with a shadow Pokemon again. I can't do it.
And I'm Richard. I don't know exactly what happened here, but it sounds bad, and we'll talk about it later, maybe.
Exactly. But with Pokemon, there are a lot of things that people agree with. Not gonna get into all of them today, but there are also a lot of things in Pokemon that I think it's safe to say, Richard, you and I have some pretty unpopular opinions when it comes to the franchise.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we both feel, and I don't know what we 100% agree on everything in this, so that's why this video, I think, is going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, we know that I'm right, and, well, you need to fall in line. But regardless, there are a lot of hot takes when it comes to Pokemon. And usually, yeah, we do hot take videos about anime in general. But this time, it's specifically Pokemon. The games, the anime, the trading card game, maybe it's on your list, because I didn't even address it.
No, I didn't.
Anyways, these are our hot takes in Pokemon, hun. So check them out on this podcast. But speaking of podcasts, there's another Pokemon podcast out there. Here, the lovely Veronica Taylor and her daughter Rena have a podcast about, well, Pokemon. What else would it be? What else would it be? But regardless, it's called The Trainer's Guide. Please go check them out.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I do need to give that a shot.
Yeah, maybe they'll have us on at some point, but I think they're trying to gain subscribers, not lose them. But anyways, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So this one's probably going to start off pretty badly, I think, for us. The Kanto starters are mid and don't deserve to get every gimmick possible that they always seem to get.
Oh, okay, same.
Yeah, I know that they're among the top most popular Pokemon, especially Charizard. But I mean, of all the gimmicks that have come out, Johto hasn't gotten any. The Hoenn starters only got Mega. The Sinnoh Pokemon, none. Only one of the starter Pokemon for Unova got anything, and that was just a regional form for their past version. It's one of those things. I'm tired of Kanto getting everything. I know it's the start, so it's always going to get favored. But please start favoring some of the other starter Pokemon and giving them some stuff. I'm really tired of all of this.
I like Venusaur.
I do too. It's just over the years, I've come to feel that they're less deserving because they've gotten everything. If there was a new gimmick that they didn't get and other starter Pokemon got, I think it would be perfectly fine because they'd still have their Megas, they'd still have their Gigantamax, they could do the Z moves and all that. It's just give everything else a chance to shine.
No, normally I jump on board with you, but at the same time, I kind of feel like you said you love the Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's kind of my issue with it. Oh, everything. Yay.
Yeah, but I've stayed relatively up with Pokemon. I've only recently really started paying more attention to Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's my childhood versus this just happens over and over and over again. And I guess it does happen with Yu-Gi-Oh, but I haven't experienced that though. So
yeah. But no, I can understand. It does not help when a lot of the stars get neglected just for Kanto. Like I said, though, it doesn't seem to happen to Bulbasaur, Venusaur nearly as much as the others, though. Well, at least by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially Charizard. I don't get me wrong, I like Charizard, but Charizard always gets everything first. I think its megas were revealed first.
It had two of them.
It had it was the only Cantonian starter in the Galar games until the DLC came out. So it had its own Gigantamax form before Bulbasaur and Venusaur. So it's probably the fact that Charizard gets everything. And I know it's a pseudo mascot, but I really feel that every other Pokemon, every other starter especially, deserves some love.
The thing, Leon's ace wasn't a Galar Pokemon, because I guess that would make sense. It's yeah, I can co-sign.
Yeah. Well, we may talk about that some as well. So
well, we'll see.
all right. But your first hot take.
Okay, this is less of a hot take and I think a little more of a misunderstanding, but it technically still counts as a hot take.
Okay.
The Pokemon Adventures manga is not good just because it's dark.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, some of the dark moments in Pokemon Adventures are really intriguing and fascinating to watch. But at the same time, there's a lot more to it than that. There's some heartfelt and heart-wrenching things that happen with it. And the humor, in my opinion, is really good. You'd think a series about two kids trying to be stand-up comedians as they get older would be really silly. But Lucas and Barry, or Diamond and Pearl, find a way to make it really interesting, and they're just so likable with how much they protect Platinum, or Dawn in this case. I actually find the friendship / romance between Ruby and Sapphire to be really intriguing, especially with some of the more comedic things, because they're both polar opposites. And especially how Sapphire once said to Ruby, my dad says he can't say anything nice, don't say anything. And then she picks up Ruby and is about to basically throw him overboard and says, but my dad's not here and you're a weenie. Just ridiculous stuff like that. Along with really good storytelling, I understand. Some people want darker stuff from Pokemon, and that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to that. But that's not all Pokemon Adventures is. And I don't think a lot of people who don't read it realize that.
Yeah, I mean, I've only read, I think, the first series of Pokemon Adventures with Red, and where the gym leaders are members of Team Rocket and stuff. So I can definitely understand. There were definitely comedic moments. I think that's kind of where people's mindset comes from, though, is that there are darker moments. I think in that, especially in those initial version of the Kanto story that's told. But from what I've seen, I mean, I've seen that scene. Someone posted it like voiceover on YouTube, reading the in character the chapter about where it's May is Sapphire in this
yes,
case, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sapphire calling Ruby the weenie. It's just it's one of those things like, oh, this is weird, and then that happens like, yeah, I could definitely see where it has a good balance. It sounds like.
Yeah, not everything's perfect. I think X and Y is kind of it feels a lot darker, and a lot of people say it's not their favorite. Jury's still out for me, but I don't know. Oh, and like I said, you're allowed to want something darker in Pokemon, but at the same time, it's not just that with Adventures.
All right. So my next one,
Go ahead.
and I think you might agree with this one, but of all the Pokemon series that I've watched, Journeys is the most disappointing one.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Looking back on what this was, kind of supposed to be a swan song for Ash, having become champion, and now he's trying to become the best in the world. I've thought about this, and this might be a good discussion later on. But I almost wanted, looking back, Journeys should have been want to be a Pokemon master on steroids. So rather than Ash build a new team for Journeys, he should have been doing kind of he cycles through his current Pokemon or all his other Pokemon. We get to see highlights of them. And I would have probably made a separate anime and started with Galar being the start of a new protagonist. So we had two different stories that could have interacted with each other. But Ash's final journey being him becoming the best in the world. And that kind of wraps up the story with Ash. And then we have something that actually tells the story in Galar with one of the new protagonists or someone completely new. Again, with Journeys, it's just there's so little told about Galar, but it's supposed to be kind of the focus, and it just feels rushed whenever they do anything Galar related, and that is really disappointing.
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed by Journeys as much as I'm more frustrated by it than anything. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember going in with the highest expectations for Journeys. Not like, oh, this is gonna be horrible, but I don't think I ever went in thinking this could be something really special. I thought, we'll see. We'll see. I will say though, I feel like a lot of people turn around on Journeys just simply because Ash won, which to me is not really. Look, I just don't, to each their own, but I just don't think that's a good way of thinking about it. It's why a lot of people say Ash versus Alon was bad because Ash lost. I'm like, no, it was a great battle. You can be upset he lost, but that was a fantastic battle. Do not short sell that, please.
Yeah. And I think a lot of my disappointment comes from kind of the start of the series. Everything felt like it was the first pretty much Pokemon Journeys before it became Master and Ultra Journeys. It felt like there was something going on that was kind of interesting, but I mean, with Chloe not being developed like at all throughout the series, I mean, it really felt like, okay, we're going to get introduced to a new evolution through this, and nope, that didn't happen. She became a research fellow, which she kind of already was, but not really.
She tried to do contests, and everybody loved that episode, and I'm like, let's see how the episode leads to something, and then it didn't lead to anything, so, yeah.
It's just for what Journeys I feel like was supposed to be kind of I know Master Journeys is the real wrap up, but the final major story for Ash, it's a letdown, and that's why I'm disappointed. There could have been more that could have just made me feel like it was like a great swan song, and it wasn't.
Do you feel like Aim to be a Pokemon Master is a separate series from Journeys?
Kind of, yeah, no, it's. I would say yes, just because it's a kind of its own mini story. But
so, would you consider aiming to be a Pokemon Master closer to Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers or Power Rangers Zeo? I didn't think this was going to be that hard of a question.
I would probably say Alien Rangers. It wasn't really displayed as its own thing. It was more connected to it's connected to Journeys, kind of how Alien Rangers was connected to Mighty Morphin. Yeah, it's there. We again, this might be a better like full like discussion on our full feelings on how Ash's story came to an end.
Oh, I thought you meant Power Rangers, but sure, that works too.
Well, we could eventually discuss Power Rangers.
I'm just saying, Pokemon Journeys would have been so much better if Bulk and Skull were running around in it.
Yeah, no, that probably would be very true.
Yeah, but I think it does. I'm going to be honest, it didn't sound like a hot take at first, but then I realized people love Journeys just because Ash won, and I guess that's a hot take for me. I'm like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, and it doesn't even feel like looking back on that battle, it doesn't even feel like Ash deserved to win because he got to use everything and only barely scraped out a win when Leon only used one. It's like, okay, now let's really redo this with Leon getting to use everything and Ash only getting to use one, and then we'll recharge it towards the end of the battle so we can use it again. But
oh god, but yeah, I can co-sign on to that though.
Yeah, so it's just a combination of frustrations with this one.
All right, you talked about a certain series of Pokemon, so I guess it's my turn next.
Go right ahead.
All right, this is kind of a hot take because nobody really talks about the series, and I feel like the way I try to, and I don't even think I do that good of a job, so I'm going to try. I think the Pokemon Black and White anime is kind of fascinating.
Okay.
Let's think about this. It's kind of a soft reboot. Ash isn't really the trainer he used to be. There are some callbacks, but not that many. And it can be frustrating. At the same time, though, they do try to fix some stuff. They do try to add some stuff. Everybody kind of gets their own thing to do. Iris and Silent clearly have their own goals. Whether they're interesting or not, well, that's another point for another day. Hey, but I don't know. It just has a lot of things I don't feel like people talk about. Not a lot of people talk about Trip outside. Oh, well, he's a bootleg Paul, which I've said before. He's not. There are a lot of different recurring characters that can be interesting and unique at times. And they even try to kind of do something with Giovanni. It's not perfect, but it's the best. I don't know. I just feel like Pokemon Black and White, whether good or bad, I feel like I'm not that bored by it. Whenever I think, it's always in the back of my mind, like, the first time I saw it, hated it. Second time I saw it, loved it. I'm rewatching it again. I'm like, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this, but I'm not fully bored by it.
I can agree. There's definitely parts that are it might be the most, how to put it, sporadic, where there are really good episodes and story feeds, and then there are some that aren't great at all. Like, I don't know. I used to, when I first started watching it, I didn't like Iris because she treated Ash like a kid, but looking back, he did change that way. I'm not a big fan of Silent anymore, though. I just don't really care for his gimmick. I wish he had a more concrete of what we knew what he was. There's only a handful of episodes that they focus on Pokemon Connoisseur. And so it's one of those, if we got maybe, if there's more to it than just that, or if he was actually, I'm trying to make it to the, I think it's the S rank Connoisseur, and he's an A rank or something. I can't remember what his rank is, but
I'm still convinced in his feud with Burgundy that he deep down was making her feel bad and he was the bad guy.
yeah, but she wasn't doing a good job.
I know, but still, I don't know. It's just a series that, in my opinion, there are people who love it, there are people who hate it, and I don't really know what camp I fall into. It's either I dislike it, or I like it, but I don't know. It's a series that I feel like if I was to do a review on any of the series, which I kind of don't think I could do because of copyright, maybe I'll do it with Richard. It's kind of the one that I really feel like I would need to put extra time and effort into.
Yeah, there's just, it's got some issues. Like I think we've talked before about the Pokemon League being too short.
Yeah. And Ash losing to someone with less brain cells than him.
Yeah, so there's that. I don't mind the final arc where they're traveling back to Kanto. Once you develop a little bit of an attachment to Cyrus and I yes,
Silent and Iris.
yeah, I just combined their names. Um, it feels way too rushed at the end. So, and then of course the actual story for the games, which takes place in every single series, is another thing. It's rushed into the end of the series again.
Yeah.
So,
I just think if it had like 1 year off, which I do think the writers and animators should be allowed to take time off because they work endlessly. I just think if they had like one more, like a year off, maybe 6 or 7 months or something like that, this could have been a really good series. Still don't think it's a really bad series, but it's my unpopular opinion is I don't think I will ever know how I feel about it because it is an interesting series, but interesting doesn't mean bad.
and I think that's kind of where I've now fallen to, having finally given it a full shot after all those years of trying to get through those first few episodes, which the first few episodes are a slog when you try to get back into Pokemon in Black and White.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, my next one.
Go ahead.
So, this one is about an actual, like, directly about a Pokemon again. I think Grovyle is a better design and should have been taken more as the final evolution of the Trico line than Sceptile.
Go ahead.
ever since I was a kid, I think it's the tail on Sceptile, the Christmas tree tail, that it becomes even more Christmas tree when it's mega. But just I always liked Grovyle. Grovyle was so cool in the anime when at with Ashes, and I don't know, something's always felt off to me about Sceptile. Just its design, well, you can kind of tell it kind of fits with Trico and color scheme and all that. It feels like something different about it, and I don't know how to where do I put my finger on it. But this is again just my hot take. I think again, Sceptile's fine as a Pokemon, but I like Grovyle, and I feel like it could have been redesigned as the final and made more of an awkward stage in between Trico and Grovyle.
I can kind of understand that. Honestly, I think I've kind of just grown to like Skeptile. In my opinion, and this is not a hot take, so it doesn't count as one. A lot of people seem to think that the Hoenn starters are kind of, in a sense, really well balanced. Like, design wise, everybody seems to like them. So I'm going to be, that's not one I've thought about. I can kind of see what you're getting at, though.
And I think it's because, especially in those first three generations, the middle starter is pretty awkward looking when compared to the starter being very cute and the final evolutions being very kind of tough, cool looking instead. And I feel like uh Grovyle is a bit too far on the cool side. It's like it doesn't have that awkwardness that a lot of the mid-stage starter evolutions have, especially in these first generations.
I can kind of see that. That being said, I liked Ash's Grovyle more when it was a Grovyle. Well, before it hit that weird, oh, I fell in love with another Pokemon, got rejected, and can't use its power for 3 episodes. That was so bizarre for a cool Pokemon like Grovyle. I expected that more from Corphish or something.
Exactly. As I said, though, it's a hot take because I know Sceptile is very popular. I know it's a favorite of a handful of other Pokemon YouTubers. So
I don't know if I agree or disagree on that. I'm like right in the middle. Because like I said, I like all of the Hoenn starters in their forms. I think they're all really well balanced.
yes, I definitely think that uh, the Torchic line and the Mudkip line are more balanced when it comes to having that awkward stage in the middle where the Pokemon actually does look a little awkward, but you can feel the transition to trying to be that cooler style that comes in the final forms.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
All right. So your next one?
All right, I was gonna save this take for a video of anime battles where the other person should have won, but I've been working on that list for about a year plus now, and I still don't have anything down for it. So maybe that video is gonna be postponed for a bit.
Yeah.
Iris should have beaten Ash in Journeys.
In the you mean in the main the first time they fight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if she'd beaten him in the Masters 8, I would have been kind of confused by that. So, but anyways, whether you love Iris or whether you hate Iris, I kind of flip flop from time to time. She is trying to be a Dragon type master. It's like the Pokemon that's about 90% of her team. So why in the world is somebody who's training exclusively with Dragon type Pokemon losing to Ash's Dragon type Pokemon, who he really did not seem to train that much? Which is a problem with Journeys, but that's another point for another day. Hey, I think it could have been really interesting if Iris had returned as champion, whether you like it or not. But she shows up and she actually beats Ash using her dragon Pokemon. That would make Ash realize, okay, Lucario and Pikachu are good, but Dracovish and Dragonite need some training. We need to put some time in. It didn't have to lead to a depression arc or anything. And Iris and Ash are friends, so it could have been a friendly-ish battle. Iris could have progressed a little more. Ash could have had a little more adversity going into the Masters 8. And eventually, when Iris battles Cynthia, if Cynthia wins, that makes her look that much tougher because, wow, Ash couldn't beat Iris last time, and now he has to go up against somebody who beat Iris. Or the alternative, if Iris beats Cynthia, that makes Iris look like that much more of a monster that Ash has to overcome.
Yeah, and we might have been able to get rid of the Cynthia, I'm retiring. No, I'm not, because
that was so stupid. That was so stupid.
So just to imagine if Iris won, but it's Iris giving Cynthia the inspiration to keep going and become more of a Pokemon master or whatever.
It could have given stories if these two people rather than just losing to Leon, losing to Ash, Iris is crying now. Great.
Yeah. So see, I do think we do need to have a discussion on how we might have improved journeys, but that will be a much longer video, and I don't know when we'll have a chance to do that one.
Yeah. But anyways, all that could have changed if Iris had beaten Ash. Ash doesn't have to. Ash could have lost this battle, moved on, gotten stronger from it. But it really could have helped solidify. Oh, Iris has grown up. She's a champion now by winning with her dragon type Pokemon against Ash's dragon type Pokemon, who I do love. But let's be honest, we're not powerhouses at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was. Oh god, I wish we had had more of her Haxorus though being showing itself as still being that Axew in mindset almost.
Sure.
I think that would
honestly, it's been a minute since I remember. I'm gonna be honest. Out of most of the Pokemon, Axew is kind of one I forget about.
I would have found it absolutely hilarious had it tried to stick its head into her hair again after it, despite the fact that its head is now like 3 times the size it used to be when it was an Axew.
Its head is the size of Axew's body.
And that's not counting the blades on the side of the head.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Iris. We've already talked about it though. If Iris should have probably gotten a little bit of Dawn's time in the Journey's anime, and
well, everybody should have. Dawn had like 15 different episodes.
Yeah. So, all right. So my next one.
Go for it.
Let's see. So this is the one I changed up slightly, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me on this one.
Proceed.
Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the most complete Pokemon games. They are balanced. I'm going to admit that, because the center of the games, they're all the 5th, 6th, and 7th gyms are way too close in level. But I think a lot of people really like that Gen 4 era of Pokemon where you have the running shoe, so everything plays a little bit faster. You get those extra Pokemon. You have the Safari Zone back in Pokemon. You have, if you want post game, you've got the entire Kanto region to go back to. You do have, as well, you can do, oh God, what are they called? The battle towers and stuff that are in the games. Overall, I think everything, and following Pokemon. The one thing Pokemon fans want, and it actually put them to the correct size.
Yeah, full disclosure, I never cared about following Pokemon. Never hated it, just like, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, as I said, in my opinion, of what Pokemon fans want in Pokemon games, because it seems like people always say they want the full Pokedex. I know we're never getting that back. People want the following Pokemon. That happens every so often, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, it seems like. And people always complain about most of the game's post games not being the best.
What makes you think I'm going to disagree with this before I give you my answer?
Because you could take into consideration some other remakes, like I would say the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire are pretty well balanced and are pretty close. I just feel like there's more to do in Heart Gold Soul Silver because they didn't bring like the battle towers back and stuff like that.
Okay, I see your points, and I do agree for the most part. I will say, though, going back and playing Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I actually found them... Everybody complains about difficulty, but I actually found them to be the easiest Pokemon games. I was playing through, and I'm like, okay, the 7th, the 8th gym, and Lance are really difficult. That's all. I found myself getting through the game relatively quickly.
I think that's the problem, is that people find that the center part of the game too easy because it's the same. Pretty much, I think it's like 2 levels divide the sixth, or the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh gym leaders ace Pokemon instead
Something
of
like
being.
that.
And I know it's because you could face those 3 in any order you want, but it's again one of those things. It's my hot take because I know right now a lot of people feel that the balance has thrown Heart Gold and Soul Silver down a lot of people's lists lately, from what I've been reading.
Yeah. Also, full disclosure, look, I love the idea of going to a different region and doing everything, but the one kind of downside to it is full disclosure, and I mean, you know me as try to support Johto just as much, almost as much as you do. But it kind of, in a sense, makes me go, oh, once I get to the post game, I can go to Kanto. Well, most of the time, I don't really think, oh, I can go to play the Johto games and go to All City where they have. I don't know. In a way, as good as it is, sometimes when I do go back and play it, I do kind of think the interest is going back to Kanto because you can. Sometimes it feels like Johto itself didn't have as much as it could have.
I can see that it as well. Again, hot take, and again, I'm a diehard Johto fan, so this is again my feelings about it. And again, I also like the final being that you go back and be pretty much what is supposed to be yourself from playing the Kanto games.
If there was a mode where you could actually take your party and battle against them rather than just whatever red team is, then I'd never say a bad word about those games. I'm like, no, that's awesome, that's perfect.
So kind of like how you in the Xenoverse, when if you played Xenoverse and then go play Xenoverse 2, your character shows up as the hero.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And it's something they could implement now, but it would be right now we've got I think a long wait for anything Johto related again.
I will say though, I spent way too much time in the bug safari. That was so much fun for me.
Yeah. That's the one thing they should that I think Johto did right was a unique type catching contest. I think if other games had implemented that, I mean, imagine like a Hoenn Water one where you could catch Wild Sharpedo, Whale Lords, stuff like that, where it's harder to find in the wild and you can get a major reward for doing it.
Seadra or Kingdra, because I struggled for years to get Kingdra. But yeah, I can understand. I I never, I don't know if I officially said if I agree or disagree, but I guess I disagree to an extent, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much of a better answer I have. I've kind of been taking a break from Pokemon games for a minute.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about more of that with my final hot take, which we're not at yet.
All right. But your next one?
All right. Speaking of games, I can come out and say this one, and I've said it for years. People disagree. I wish I cared. Friendly rivals aren't a bad thing.
I can agree.
Okay, look, I understand. At worst, you get how Tierno, Trevor, Shauna. At worst, you get those, and they were not well developed. But I don't think that's because they were friendly. That's just because the story didn't have much for them. Like Richard and I have both agreed, Hop is a really good rival. He has a good story, and he's still friendly with you. Barry, while not the friendliest person, is still considered your best friend and does have a good arc of starting from being hyperactive and completely bullheaded to calming down and maturing a bit while still feeling like Barry. Wally, while not the most developed, is still very likable, and there is a shift from being the frail trainer to a great trainer with an amazingly badass soundtrack when you battle him. It's kind of crazy. I'm not saying I don't see the point of having more standoffish or even jerkish rivals, but I don't look at jerk rivals and be like, oh, well, they're mean to you, so that's how they're good. That doesn't work. No.
No, the thing that you get with some of the mean rivals, Blue is Blue. He's fine. I know a lot of people love him. Once you get to know a bit more about Silver, and if if we ever actually got the US release, I think, of the story. I don't know if it actually ever came out during the Soul Silver Heart Gold arc, where you get to find out that he is Giovanni's son and he's got his own goals.
I believe that was part of a special event with
It will,
Celebi.
yeah, I can't remember if it actually got released in the US or not.
I think I ended up getting it.
But they actually told his story, though. He has a reason for hating Team Rocket, and his mindset comes from his ideas of what he needs to do to be able to defeat Team Rocket. But they told his story. That's the thing.
If they never told Silver's story, I wouldn't find him interesting in the slightest. I'd just be like a jerk rival. But there are people out there who are like, well, even if they didn't, he's a jerk, so that works as rival because that's motivation. No, it's not. Sometimes it gets boring. Sometimes it's more interesting to learn about these characters. Heck, May and Brendan, as much as I've talked about them, do have an interesting dynamic that makes you go, I want to see more of these two. But once again, that's another point for another day. I'm sick of the discourse of just because they're friendly means they can't be a rival, especially when the anime has disproved that so many times.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, at least recently, comes from Hao, because he was not greatly developed. He was fine, but as the main rival for your story, just never felt right. It doesn't help that he picked the type weak to yours at the start, so that makes his team at a disadvantage from the start.
Yeah. Now, Namona is... I still don't know how I feel about Namona all this time later. That's something. She's something.
I just picture her as Goku. She's trying to create someone who's actually worthy of her time.
Well, no matter what, the popular opinion is not whether it's Penny, whether it's Namona, neither of them are beating Arvin.
I can see that.
Anyways, but not all friendly rival does not mean bad rival.
Yeah, I'll co-sign on to that one. I can definitely agree.
All right, honorable mentions. Go out.
All right. So this is kind of a part two to the my last one with Heart Gold, but it's more to do with how we've gotten post games. In my opinion, it's between the the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Delta episode and the DLCs. Those are the closest we've come to having something equivalent to a whole extra game almost built into into these games.
So you're basically, one of your hot takes is more or less the DLC is actually working.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say it should just be part of the game. Yeah, probably, but that's not how games work anymore, and people need to realize that we're probably never going to go back to that time where you buy a game and it's complete and you don't get updates for it anymore.
And the crazy thing is that people are complaining that Pokemon games come out too fast. So it's like, wouldn't you want a game with DLC that takes its time, realizes, okay, what worked in the base game, what didn't work in the base game? I don't know. I think I'm fine waiting, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I said with the DLC, it's, in my opinion, getting these extra large areas that are pretty big, expansive, and filled with Pokemon, especially now that we get the Pokemon in the overworld, is kind of fun because you get to go and watch them move through. I wish there were more interactions with the environment for Pokemon, like Pokemon like Wiglet, Wugtrio, and the Earthworm Pokemon that actually dig and disappear to run away from you. There should be more like that. There should be some bird Pokemon that try to fly away from you, so you have to sneak up on them.
I still think there should be Pokemon that actually do want to befriend you. Whether you catch them or not, they're just there to say hi. Maybe you give them some food or something.
Yeah, so there are ways that we can eventually see these games improving, especially through DLC, I feel. But I feel like the DLC, when it comes to giving you more to a game, is a step kind of in the right direction when it comes to making the games last before the next release.
Yeah. And going back with the Delta episode, I guess I just like Zinnia's story was really fascinating in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. I thought the Delta. It's the crazy thing is because I kind of took a break at some point from Pokemon. So when I got Alpha Sapphire, it's just like, oh, here's the Delta episode. I heard nothing about it. I'm like, what? I'm sorry. I was to say I was surprised that everything was kind of a shock, but I really enjoyed the Delta episode.
I did too. It's probably the best story-driven post game we've gotten. I know Kalos had the oh god, the mind-controlled girl with Looker, which is kind of interesting, but
It was all right.
yeah. And I don't know. I haven't beaten Black and White 2, so I don't know if there's anything story related with that. But again, there's not much. It's like you unlock the rest of the region that you explored in the first game.
Yeah. I really didn't care for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Fight Team Rainbow, fight everybody together, which all the evil teams. I'm just like, didn't Archie and Maxie like decide to be good guys? Why what I don't know.
Well, these are from what I understand, they're supposed to be from worlds that they won.
I know, but in my opinion, after they've turned good, I don't want to see them be evil again. I want to see them be good, which is once again another point for later.
Yeah, God, I'm realizing there's a lot we could actually talk about Pokemon, whether we want to or not.
I just imagine though, there are some evil teams who have succeeded and you have to go up against, but there are also some evil teams that have seen the error of their ways and like, hey, we're gonna help you out. We got your back. So this way, it actually feels like you're not the only person doing stuff.
I mean, we could get like Ruby Sapphire and Emerald 2, which is just us versus Team Sky from M&J TV Plays, and Maxie and Archie are actually good guys now.
Sure. Why? I'm going to pretend I understand that and say, sure, I get the reference.
Go watch M&J TV Plays, where he has his own evil team, which is called Team Sky. Their goal is to expand the sky.
Man, we have friends with stuff, and you're plugging people who don't know us. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyways, I could definitely co-sign though. I get that.
All right. So your first honorable mention?
In Diamond and Pearl, Paul wasn't really reprimanded enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I honorable mention because I kind of touched on that Paul's not really like Paul. For the longest time, I said I like Paul, but something is keeping me from loving him, and I finally figured out what it is. Whenever it's brought up that Paul was not the nicest to Chimchar, was very abusive to Chimchar, Ash and friends, and I mean Ash, Dawn, Brock, and Cynthia, and those are the main ones, were always like, oh, there are just different ways of training Pokemon. There are different ways of understanding. I'm like, no, he is an abusive person, and you guys are just letting him off scot-free. There are people who were ready to fight Paul. They're just like, hey, don't do it. It's not worth it. I'm like, look, I know this is a kid show. I know sometimes just letting the other person go is fine. But the fact that they were making excuses seemingly for him kind of made me dislike all of them for it.
I can definitely understand that. And he doesn't really seem to change, even at the end when he loses. Because if I remember correctly, he loses to Ash, right?
Yes, of course.
And it's first time, it's like he just sort of walks away. I know he kind of acts like he might be changing, but you don't see that because after that there's not really any more Paul after the league.
Yeah. I understand part of the philosophy is also Ash is maturing because the old Ash would have dropped him with the people's elbow. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, some people you don't have to forgive. If he had shown some way of saying he was sorry, but just the idea that they kept finding ways of excusing it, saying, oh, it's just a different mindset. Like they stopped hating him as the series went on. I'm just like, no. He's kind of a disgusting person, and you're just letting it go. You guys are. I know. I'm not allowed to say this because apparently the Diamond and Pearl anime is perfect, but I'm sorry. I don't like how looking back on it, Paul was frustrating and not in a good way.
Yeah, I'm gonna co-sign onto this one. You've kind of convinced me with this one. I mean, as a rival, he could have been more if he kind of accepted the consequences of his actions with his how he treated his Pokemon and the other trainers, maybe it probably would have made him a better character overall.
Yeah, and for me, the whole catching strong Pokemon with his philosophy of versus raising Pokemon to be strong of Ash's philosophy, for the most part, that's done very well. It's just the whole Chimchar thing that kind of makes me go, this kind of doesn't make me like him. And everybody always comes back with, well, who's your favorite anime rival for Ash? And I'm just like, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't have an answer because I like all of them, but I don't think it's complicated.
I can understand that. I would almost like it to be one of those things like during like he could have started learning stuff in that final battle had like his training being so tough, and now he's facing Ash in the tournament. Ash seems to be getting a really good upper hand, and his Pokemon stopped listening to him. Kind of how Charizard didn't listen to Ash.
Exactly.
And they kind of go off on their own and pretty much not. I guess a sweep would be disappointing, but it could also see it being an interesting story element if they had more time to tell like the follow-up episodes.
Yeah. And then, like, if he comes back in Journeys and he's still kind of cold, but he is much kinder to his Pokemon. Once again, you could have Ash even maybe lose, like, hey, this friendship thing is kind of decent, but now I'm stronger than you. If you're in the Masters 8, you need to fix that.
Yeah, there's a lot that Paul could have been. And yeah, without really showing he learns anything until we get one episode in Journeys where he still acts cold to Ash, but he seems to treat Pokemon fine now, is just a disappointing payoff.
Yeah, like I said, it just makes me like Ash, Dawn, Brock, and Cynthia to an extent less because of they're just like, oh, it's just a different style. No, he's abusive. Also, his hair is stupid, but that's just me. I don't like his hair.
Okay. All right. So this one is kind of an honorable mention. It's not necessarily the greatest hot take because I think a lot of people do agree with it. The fact that they got rid of trait evolutions in Legend Arceus was great, and the fact that they brought them back in Scarlet and Violet is like, why? We had all this stuff. Give us the if you're not gonna get rid of it, give us the link cable. That's how you evolved them in
I thought you meant like an actual link cable that you had to buy. I'm like, what the hell? Like, where the hell is that going to fit on your Switch? I'm like, oh, the actual. No, I get you. I understand.
Yeah, it's one of those. I know it's easy. All you have to do is at this point is catch the Pokemon and pretty much put in the code for the exact same Pokemon, and you'll trade over 1-for-1 and each get the final evolution. At this point, trait evolutions make no sense. It's
even the anime kind of doesn't seem to know how to write this that well.
Well, I like there's a meme of all the Pokemon learning how they evolve, and it's like you evolve by level up, and then they have and it's like you evolve by touching this special stone. Then they get to Macho. You evolve by being traded to another Pokemon trainer. And it gets kind of dark right after that. And I'm not good.
Yeah, because here's the thing: when I was a kid and I had a Kadabra on my team, I'm like, man, my Kadabra's so cool, and I started trading with myself just because I didn't have any other friends, and I started trading with myself. I'm like, oh, Alakazam, that's why do I have to trade for this?
Exactly. I know it's so strange because I think it's actually considered the worst of the original trait evolutions. I loved Golem as a kid.
Same.
But the fact is, I had to before I realized that it was a trait evolution, the link cable that I had broke, and I didn't get one until me and my cousin were trading Pokemon when I was a bit older, and he had and I had gone to his house and he had a link cable.
Yeah. That being, as much as I hate trading evolutions, though, I wouldn't mind more bizarre one. Like, I kind of like the one where it's like, oh, well, you have to flip the DS upside down. Well, I shouldn't like it as much as I do, but I do. Then again, I'm the guy who says I'd like more evolutions like Shedinja. Oh, just evolve this Pokemon, have a Pokeball with you, and you're good.
I think if there were more, you could even change those to be unique evolutions. Kind of like, I know a lot of them would probably be more like the Galarian Farfetch'd evolution to get Surfetch, where you have to hit like a certain number of critical hits, or have a certain amount of damage
Yeah, that.
before you can evolve your Pokemon. So just there's a whole bunch of these different, I think, more fun in-game versions. Trade evolutions were fine when it was a bit more challenging to get a trade because you had to meet someone in person. Now you could do everything over the internet. It's like you could have a probably before the first gym you could in Scarlet Valley you could have a Gengar.
Meeting people in person. Remember what that was like?
Yeah. When is COVID over?
I don't know. I still don't know if it is or not. But yeah, I can co-sign. I don't. I've never liked trade evolutions. It doesn't seem like it helps anybody, especially once you trade them. It's just like, okay, send them back. What's the point?
Exactly. And as I said, the fact that they got rid of them through that link cable because you can trade in these Legend of Arceus games made it that much more of a not necessarily challenge, but or it made it easier and more user friendly. I felt.
Exactly.
All right, your next honorable mention.
Oh, this one I'm the most nervous about. Ash versus Red is not a good idea.
Yeah, I can agree.
Okay, look, I love Ash, I love Red, but what do these two really have to gain from battling each other? It just sort of feels like they're two completely different characters, depending on what lore you look at. Personally, I'm for the Origins Red, who felt like he could make mistakes, as opposed to silent protagonist Red, who kind of just feels perfect. But I just don't think it's a good idea because if you have Ash lose, people are going to complain. It's like, oh, well, he's more of a mascot than Red is because of the anime and pop culture and everything. But if you have Red lose, you kind of think to yourself, huh, this kid who never trains his Pokemon was able to beat probably the strongest trainer in history. I don't know. Even if you do a tie, it's kind of like, okay, what was the point? Plus,
Mhm.
they both have Charizards, they both have Pikachus. I don't know. I don't want too much of the same thing from these guys. And I'm not interested in Ash versus Red.
Yeah, and then you have to take into consideration. I mean, there's like 10 versions of Red because the mangas. There's like I know that besides Adventures, there's at least one or two other mangas that have Red as the main character, at least for part of the story. So
Yeah,
it's like, okay, if you take one of those, it's his team changes on each of these because I know he's Venusaur's trainer is his first Pokemon, or no, Poliwhirl's starting Pokemon.
something like that. I don't know. As cool as it would be to see if I'm like, oh, these are two completely different characters. And I know this is gonna sound super hypocritical considering we're always saying, we'd love the game protagonist to be in the anime interacting with Ash and everything. This is the one time I'm kind of like, no, let's skip it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was just like a one-on-one, where if it's a full 6-on-6, I can 100% agree. It's either way it goes bad. If it's just a like one-on-one Pikachu versus Pikachu, it might be fun, but
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. Let me put it to you this way: I've never met anybody who's written that or has their own way of doing it that I've liked. Maybe somebody has a brilliant way of doing it that would make me go, "Never mind, I changed my mind." But so far, none.
no, I can kind of agree. As I said, I think there's a way. It's not a full battle. A full
Yeah,
battle is going to make one side of the franchise so pissed off that
yeah,
it's
yeah. And Lord knows it's really easy to do that nowadays.
yeah, like this video.
Yeah, whether it's deserved or not. We've never talked about doing red in the original Pokemon series, but I'm gonna be honest, I struggle the most with that one.
Yeah, I would probably need to read the manga because yeah, there's just I know the personalities that are portrayed by the other characters, but if you take video game Red, he's always portrayed as the strong silent type, which doesn't work great for making a video on how they would react to everybody else.
Yeah. Those videos are coming back. We're talking about Gen 8 because it's gonna have to be something a little different.
Yeah. All right. So my next honorable mention?
Isn't it your last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see, which one? The in my opinion, the Alolan League is the worst Pokemon League we've seen on in the anime. The reason being that too many of the trainers only have like 1, 2, 3 Pokemon and are trying to win this league. And it's like, well, Ash has 6. God, I forgot the name of the
Gladion had 5, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and then oh god, the Pokemon with that's the leader of Team Skull.
Destroy your boy Guzma.
Yeah, it's like, well, the 3 of them have more Pokemon than like everybody else combined, so one of them's winning. I don't know who.
Yeah, full disclosure, Guzma should have won. Guzma should have won that whole tournament and taken over. That would be amazing.
Just you come back and everybody's in Team Skull gear. It's now
Actually,
regulation.
no, I want to see that.
Oh god. But yeah, to me it was so predictable because I mean even Kiawe, it's like Kiawe's supposed to be Ash's kind of friendly rival throughout this. He's only got like 3 Pokemon, maybe 4. So he's not quite that, like if he had a full team throughout the series, then maybe we would get it'd be more interesting. Like, okay, he could be good. And then they introduced How in I think season 3, right? Which is
Yeah, How got like maybe 2 episodes before the league.
So it's is it not is it Harrison that I can't remember. The guy from
you don't like
Hoenn.
Morrison, and as somebody who just went back and rewatched Morrison's episodes, I actually think Morrison's done perfectly. I'm not saying that as hyperbole. I actually go back and look, wow, that was actually a really compelling story. Why do people forget about Morrison?
I think it's because he's in too few episodes. If he had started out as just showing up every so often, kind of the Gary, the Paul, where he is in more episodes, it would be done better.
Yeah, I still think it was done well for what it was. But as for Ash's main rival in Hoenn, once again, another point for another day. As for the Alola League, I do kind of agree, but I also kind of don't because I'm like, this is bad, but I feel like Journeys kind of did it worse.
Yeah, but at least in Journeys, the final battles had every person you knew had teams of 6, at least.
Well, not at first. At first, it was just okay, 3-on-3, and everybody getting squashed.
That's kind of true, but at least at the end, like you knew the semifinals and the finals would at least be whoever was there, no matter what the outcomes were, would have 6 Pokemon.
There were actually some rumors running around that the semifinals were going to be just 3 Pokemon again. At that point, even I would have quit. I've been like, I tried to be positive. Y'all have fun.
No, but in all honesty, the tournaments like this, in my opinion, are always better when it's the full 6-on-6 battles, because then you get to see pretty much every Pokemon that Ash used throughout that series.
Or heck, even some double, because some of the tournament said, okay, we're gonna have a double battle for one of the preliminary rounds. I'm like, okay, that's different, because it was usually like, oh, Grovyle and Glalie or something like that.
Yeah, so it's just, in my opinion, the way the Alolan League was handled, because the only time I think they do a full 6-on-6 is at, I don't know, does Gladion have, I know he has at least 5.
Gladion has 5, so they couldn't do 6.
So the only
Ash
time
versus
is
Kakui, isn't it?
Yeah, which is the final battle.
Oh god, that's bad. So why do people say Sun and Moon's their favorite series?
I think because it's a bit more comedic, but it's still like, I don't know. There's something missing with this tournament.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Somebody claimed that Sun and Moon wouldn't be nearly as beloved had Ash lost the Alola League, and I'm like, you're probably right about that, but maybe I should keep my mouth shut on that.
Yeah. So And as I said, in my opinion, Pokemon League tournaments should always pretty much at least from the final 16 onward should be full battles.
This is why I tell people Sun and Moon just had way too many characters in the anime. But yeah, I can co-sign though. I understand how you feel.
Yeah, we could have gotten and they could have had full teams if you think about it. They had plenty of episodes. They could have all had their own Ultra Beast on their team.
That's where I have to. I didn't like really most of those Ultra Beasts, so I kind of have to stop you there.
No, I don't either. But at least it would have been made it a bit more fair because Ash had the
Poipole.
Well, Poipole that became
I don't know.
Whatever the evolved form is.
I don't know, dude. It would have been better than what they actually did with the Ultra Beast, but no.
As I said, it's just my least favorite of the leagues, and I think I've seen them all now.
Sure.
So, all right, your final honorable mention.
All right, you talked about your favorite region, so I have to talk about my favorite region, or more specifically, one of my favorite characters. May is massively underappreciated as a character.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily mean people hate her and think she's the worst. I just think nobody really talks about just how important she was to, somebody besides Ash getting stuff to do. She feels very important to the story, and her growth is incredibly natural. For all I gripe about Drew, and I will never back down from that, I don't care who we're friends with on this channel. Oh, Drew can bite me. Her dynamic with him and the rivalry did make sense. She did grow from it, but she never changed. She still felt like kind of an immature, fourth wall breaking, over dramatic person. And look, I'm not happy that her voice actress got sick and we haven't seen May. Obviously, I want her voice actress to be happy and healthy and living a great life, and May to come back at some point. But as much as it sucks, it kind of helps in the sense of we haven't seen her that much besides the Wallace Cup. Everybody else who's returned kind of starts to lose something. We've talked about Dawn. Dawn does not feel like Dawn anymore, and we don't like her nearly as much. Iris started off good, then lost to Ash, then lost to Cynthia. Serena, Serena's complicated for me.
In my opinion, she's fine because she's in one episode. She doesn't necessarily change from her final moments in X and Y to where we are in where we see her in Journeys, but that kind of is fine when you compare her to Dawn, where we lose things in our opinion with just what her goals are and all that. She still seems to have them. She's still there. You see that she has matured from that first episode Serena that we got. So it's just kind of, but they also didn't have time to ruin her.
Yeah. I'm not saying they couldn't have ruined May at some point, or they probably didn't think about it at some point. I'm just saying a lot of people say, oh, Dawn's the best. No, Lily's the best. No, well, Serena's the best. And I'm just like, does May just get nothing? It's not even that people hate her. It's that people just act like, oh, she didn't really do anything. I'm like, are you serious? How soft is your head? Let me see it.
I mean, a whole new actual goal that felt interesting and obtainable. I wish that had been like an option. Like looking back to the Scarlet or the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald games. Imagine if you could, yes, you could do the gyms and you could do both, but imagine if you could focus 100% on contests and there was actually a tournament for that and stuff, and you faced off more. I never beat the actual full master level contests in the game.
I think I did, but I don't remember anything about it. That's the problem.
Yeah, so imagine if we had gotten a grand festival story thing that you could play in the games.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying everybody dogs on May or everybody hates May. I just feel like she never really gets the credit she deserves for just being awesome.
I can definitely understand, and I'm guessing it's because she hasn't shown up since the Diamond and Pearl as a voiced full character on this.
Well, it's also that, and people just say, well, the advanced generation didn't really do anything all that great. It was just right before Diamond and Pearl. I'm just like, I will smack all of you. Just I didn't want to include that as a hot take because deep down I actually like advanced generation more than Diamond and Pearl, but that's fine. I'm not going to say that.
Well, and it's one of those that could have technically, like, looking back on it, there are a handful of places that I view that the Ash's journey could have ended better. The end of Johto, they could have switched it up then. The end of the advanced generation when Ash wins beats all the frontier brains. Kalos, and then Alola, pretty much, are the four places I kind of view that it could have ended really well.
Considering Black and White was a soft reboot, could have found a way to make sense of, oh, we're going with somebody else for this.
Yeah, so the only issue with that is just how Ash's story would have ended in Sinnoh losing to a guy with 2 legendaries, because we've made his team as well as we could at this point.
Yeah, well, maybe Ash can get over it. But seriously, getting back to the neutral thing, May probably, in my opinion, the best traveling companion. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever do a list of our favorite anime characters, because it kind of feels like we do that all the time, depending on the list. She's up there.
I can see it, and no, I pretty much everything Dawn does, besides having a crisis of confidence that lasts half a season, May does, and does it better.
Yeah. Well, I will say that as much as I will find ways to pick on Drew, he's better than Kenny.
Yeah.
So Drew, you get that. Kind of like you got your ass kicked by May in the second Grand Festival. Yeah, I said it.
And there's Harvey.
I love Harley, dude. He's too funny for me to hate.
That's one of those that I love to hate him.
Which works perfectly. But we've talked about May a lot. Can we move on to your last hot take?
All right, my last hot take, and this kind of goes with the whole DLC conversation, but even without it, the base Scarlet and Violet games were a lot of fun. Yes, they had their glitches, but I liked having multiple story arcs with different characters for a game.
I agree, but there is a but.
Yeah, I can understand I don't know for you, but I know a lot of people were upset with how Pokemon kind of popped into the world. The graphics could use improving. I get that. But for story, I enjoyed getting to play all these different characters, getting to know characters, and actually getting backstory for like Penny and stuff. And Harmon and all that. It's a lot of fun getting to know more characters than I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time we got a lot of backstory for side characters in a Pokemon game.
I feel like they tried with Sword and Shield. They exceeded to an extent, but they did stumble a little bit. They tried with Legends Arceus, but
Yeah, but I know these games get a lot of hate, and I think it's mostly for the kind of clunky condition that they came out at first in. But overall, I really enjoyed these games.
I can agree. It was nice. I will say, though, the problem for me, and we'll talk about this more when we review Scarlet and Violet, I do kind of feel like Arvin and his story and everything he goes through kind of blows everybody else out of the water.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's his story is kind of I would almost say the main one, despite the fact that it's not necessarily the full focus of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just he wants these herbs. I'm like, why do I care if you want these herbs? We learn why. I've already got all of them. I was like, do you need a break? No. Just okay, I should sit down.
Beat them. Give them to it's Mastiff, I think is
I thought it was Mabostiff.
I don't know anymore.
I want to talk about that level. It made me cry.
But I mean, personally, I like Nimona as kind of a friendly role where she's trying to make you strong enough to face her at her best throughout the series.
Where she still loses.
Yeah. And then I don't know. Penny, I've come to appreciate her story more than uh I used to. Like, when I first appeared, it was like, okay, this is weird. It's school bullies. It's not great. And it's like, but as you learn more about them, it's like, okay, I'm starting to get behind this.
I will say my kind of another hot take for me, I kind of prefer Sword and Shield's base story over Scarlet and Violet's base story. I'm a little behind in the Scarlet and Violet DLC, but I think I already like it more than the Sword and Shield DLC, especially with the whole, oh, run around and find these footprints. I'm like, no, this sucks. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, that was a bit much because there was what, like 100 of them that you were supposed to find all the Pokemon. So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, but I can agree. I thought, like, take the glitches out, and Scarlet and Violet, in my opinion, is probably like the game that for a lot of people saves Pokemon, because a lot of people were down on it for some good reasons, and for some reasons I still don't quite understand.
I think it's kind of a step in the right direction if the next games have a lot more story telling like what is going, where we get multiple stories, whether they're separate or if you have to complete them all again. I don't really care. I'll play them all eventually if they're separate stories where you have to choose what you actually do.
Yeah. I might do Arvin's first and kind of forget about them, but I'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, I can help you. But you were supposed to help me 4 days ago. I'm like, yeah, I was helping Arvin. Got a problem?
Yeah, yours is helping take down the kids who were bullied and are now the bullies. And yours is that I have to go battle the 8 gym leaders again. His, I'm helping a Pokemon. I'm going with him.
I will say this. I will say the student with the pompadour, or who told you about the bullies, he was cool. Well, it's just too bad he doesn't enroll in the school or anything. I'd actually love to take classes with him.
Yeah, I love Clive.
Yeah, Clive was cool. I wonder if if Director Clavel would like him.
I think they would get along pretty well. They both, I think, have similar goals in mind.
Exactly. But I can co-sign onto that, though.
And of course, they brought in probably the best character in all of Pokemon, Larry.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Larry, the best character in all of Pokemon.
Oh, sweet. I didn't understand what you meant at first. I'm like, oh, Larry, of course.
Yeah, and to be honest, he is the Larry that Joe from Impractical Jokers always yells for.
If the Impractical Joker starts showing up in Pokemon, I'm not really going to know what to do.
No, but I can see the Larry that Joe is shouting for being someone who's like a businessman who just wants to get work done. And
I will say though, I did not like he did not need to be a gym leader and an Elite Four person. That was like, you couldn't have come up with somebody else.
Yeah, but he's also a fan favorite now. So
I'm just meanwhile, I'm just hanging out with old rappers and streamers.
Yeah, this was definitely the most interesting combination of gym leaders we probably have gotten.
No, I loved it. I that is a point for them.
Yeah, as I said, I really enjoy it, and I don't know if that it's a good or a bad thing. From my understanding, some people really love these games, and others are very much haters on them. So
yeah, I feel like the consensus has been better than the past several years, but I think the consensus on that opinion is a good one too. It's just too bad because I feel like I'm kind of about to destroy all credibility.
okay, let's hear yours.
All right, most people try to find a way to. Most of you are fans of ours who I love and cherish very much, and you do your best to stand up for me. But if you don't feel like doing that for this hot take, I understand. Pokemon Masters EX is the best Pokemon game we've gotten in years.
I don't really have an opinion because I've only played a little bit, and it is really enjoyable because you get the Pokemon with partnered with the every person that you could play as in any of the games.
okay, so here's the thing. I understand it's a mobile app. I understand in some you can pay for stuff, even though it's not pay to win necessarily. But to me, this game does everything I kind of wanted. It takes characters and forces them to interact with each other. The gameplay itself is fine, the gameplay is good, but we get to learn so much about characters. Now, sadly, they do the thing where it's like, hey, Dawn, Lily, do you want another costume or another pair? And there are still people sitting on the sidelines. I still don't know what they're doing with Elio and Celine. But at the same time, though, you do get to learn more about these characters. You see that Archie and Maxie's loyalty to their teams, like when something goes wrong, is like, we have to do this. I don't care about the mission. I don't care about our feud. We have to save these people. We get a great story with Lucas involving how he feels like he's like the third wheel between Barry and Dawn and how he doesn't feel as strong. But it also shows through that story his kindness and good nature lead to Dialga trusting him. We get a lot of stories for people with legendaries that they probably shouldn't have, but they find a way to justify it. Heck, they give stories to characters who, we've talked about Wally. He doesn't get a whole lot to do, but they give him a story that makes him kind of realize he's trying too hard to win rather than thinking about his Pokemon's feelings. He rebounds from it and gets stronger from it. There's just so much about Pokemon Masters that is really good that not a lot of people talk about, especially the fact that I don't know the proper term for it, but when you have a problem, they usually get back to you like, oh, they should include this. And they're like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it sounds like this fits perfectly in something we've talked about where this has a good balance of good story and good character development. We've talked about before how you can kind of function without good story if you have really good character development, but you can't really do it with bad character and no story.
Yeah. There's you remember the ball guy from Sword and Shield, right? The guy with the Pokeball in his head who would always talk to you in the gyms.
Yeah.
He had a story where he thought about becoming a bad guy, and it's not taken seriously in the slightest. It's actually hilarious. And we get three characters who are kind of the main focus of that story. And it's the weirdest combination because it's your boy, Ethan, Elio, and Victor, I want to say. It's just them interacting. It's just like, oh, we should probably stop Ball Guy. And like, yeah. And at the same time, I think to myself, I would never think, let's have these three interact. Let's have these three save the day. It's just a good mix of characters that we get to see.
Yeah, from my understanding, I mean, almost every. I know you said that some haven't had much, but
yeah,
from my understanding, it's pretty much every character has at least a handful of good moments.
Right. Heck, there's even a story with Licia or Licia, whatever her name is, and Dawn, and they interact with Bede, and it's kind of shown that Licia doesn't understand Bede's sarcasm. Like, he'll be like, oh, I'm sure your contest will be great. She's like, thanks. He's like, yeah, what?
Or she's doing that on purpose, which would also be just as hilarious.
Yeah. Not to mention, it just does feel like there are characters who get more. Like, in Ruby and Sapphire, your rival just kind of sits in their house after it's just like, oh, I wonder where I'll find Pokemon next. But it's actually revealed that May wanted to become a contest star. She's like, I can't be a champion, and I don't fully just want to be a researcher. Let me give contests a chance, and it actually has some story moments. There is some moments of when you start to play it, you realize, wow, her and Brendan won't shut up about each other. It goes from sickeningly sweet to, oh god, guys, get a room, please.
Oh god, okay.
Yeah, but the main thing is it just focuses on characters and giving them stuff to do. And yes, it's a mobile app, and that's and a lot of people think that's a no-no, but it does kind of everything we want. Characters get stories, characters get power-ups at some point. I'm sorry, I am more excited to wake up and play Pokemon Masters EX than I am for, DLC. I'm having fun with it, but I'm just more invested in this.
I can see that. It sounds interesting. I may need to go back and give it another shot. I know I have it, and I've played it some.
With all the updates and everything, you're gonna have too many gems to spend.
Oh god.
I don't know. I don't think, and I think a lot of people do like Masters EX, but in my opinion, I'm just like, I kind of like this more than most games that have come out in a minute, and that's okay. Provided I'm not spending $60, more than a good amount of money on it.
What, like the $150 that they're saying GTA 6 is going to cost?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just play the PS6 version of GTA 5 again. Thank you.
The sad thing is, you're probably not wrong on that. But anyways, Pokemon Masters EX. Is it everybody's favorite? No, but honestly, I enjoy it more than most Pokemon games at points.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that.
Yeah, but that's kind of all I have, though.
It's the same with me.
All right, so are we ready to wrap up?
Yep.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, and others, what are some of your hot takes for Pokemon? Anything you disagree with on ours, it's okay. You're allowed to voice whether you disagree. Just be cool about it. Tell us some of your hot takes for Pokemon, and just anything you want to clear up, because we got kind of all over the place at times.
Yeah, and I mean, as he said, if any of these you don't agree with, or if you have other reasons for why you agree, or please tell us in the comments.
That's correct. And let us know, do you want us to do more hot takes for specific series? Because Dragon Ball, Naruto, other stuff, I could probably do that.
Yeah, I think there might be a lot of hot takes about, especially with Dragon Ball after what was revealed this week.
I don't think that's a hot take, my friend.
It depends on, I guess, if you are interested or not in seeing it.
Nope. But anyways, just let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. Go watch all of our other videos. Be good to yourselves. And we'll see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.